Going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. Today we have update number 23 of the Pittsburgh Pirates franchise here in MLB The Show 20, and we have a couple of interesting moves to recap here for you guys today. We'll get into the schedule, how things have played out so far, and what has happened with the team so far. So the first thing that I want to go into is the schedule, and before I do that, I need to pull something up real quick. Alright, so let's jump into the schedule real quick. We can first see the standings by hovering over the calendar here. You guys can see that we are on top of the division with a 34-12 record at this point in the season, followed up by the Brewers, the Reds, the Cubs, and then the Cardinals. As has kind of been the case in the past season, the Brewers are the only real competition in the division. I mean, the Reds are doing a decent job, and these things can change, and honestly, our team is starting to not play the greatest at this point, so our record could very easily change as we move forward here, but not a lot of competition going on within the division. What I will say is that the reason that we have so many wins is because I was trying to accomplish the goal of winning 10 straight series, which is one of my GM goals here in the franchise, and I finally got that to happen. We won 10 consecutive series, and then that was me playing a ton of games. So if we jump into the calendar, you guys will see from the start of the season we played Cincinnati, and we took a commanding 3-0 sweep of them. We went on to play Boston, swept them 3 games to 0, and we actually won 10 games in a row. So we swept Chicago, swept St. Louis, and then won the first 2 against Miami. We then went on to get our first loss of the season against Miami, which was kind of a thrashing, 1-14. And then we came back, we bounced back, and got a win against them at 13-2. We went on to play Colorado, and we took 2 games out of 3. Colorado gave us a decent fight in the last 2 games. We went on to play Toronto again here, and we beat them 2 games out of 3. Playing Cincinnati, and we beat them 2 games out of 3. We went on to play the Dodgers, who, are always a tough opponent for us, and they took the 3rd game out of the series, but we did come away with another series win. We won the series against Washington, taking 2 out of 3. We won the series against Philadelphia, taking 2 out of 3. Same thing with Atlanta, taking 2 out of 3, and then San Diego winning 3 out of 4. We went on to play the New York Mets, which is a decent opponent. They came out with an 8-7 loss to us, but really I feel like they probably should have won these second 2 games based on the way that our team played, and we did hit a little bit of a slump here, and we finally hit our first series loss of the season, taking a series loss to St. Louis, 1-3. 5-6, and then a 2-1 win for Mitch Keller. Now, there are a lot of really important things to cover in terms of the team outside of our record. Obviously, we're playing really well. Clearly I am playing a lot of games, and so that's going to, we're going to start seeing a lot more simulation here as the season progresses to kind of even things out. But there are a lot of changes going on with the team. So the first big change is that we dealt away Noah Syndergaard. Now, this was not a necessity move. Noah Syndergaard was playing pretty well for us. There was no need to move on from him. But what I will say is there are a couple of factors that led into this. Number one, Quinn Priester was basically ready to join the major leagues. He had a phenomenal record down there in the minors. He was doing really well as a pitcher, and I wanted to get him up into the starting rotation. I know it's really early, but I wanted to give him a shot, and in order to give him a shot, we couldn't have 5 entrenched starters up here in the majors. I wasn't going to take him and play him in the bullpen because of how much he means to me as a prospect for this organization. So Quinn Priester is getting a shot up here in the major leagues, and the other, probably more important factor was Noah Syndergaard joined this team as an effort to revive his career. We kind of had a deal with him that, he would revive his game here and help save the Pittsburgh Pirates and help lead us to greatness and help establish this franchise. But in the same breath, we have an obligation to him, from my perspective, to do what is best for him. And as he turned 30, He starts to hit the second half of his career. He has decided that he wants to play for a team that he enjoys, a team that he can be the ace of, and a team that he's a fan of. So Noah Syndergaard actually went, and we sent him home to the Rangers. So I have to actually get over to the Rangers real quick, if I can scroll to them. And Noah Syndergaard here is the ace of the Rangers now. So this is one of the biggest moves for us. This wasn't a move that was meant to help us. This was more of a move to give something to Noah, to Thor, that we owed him, based on what has happened with this franchise. And we wanted to send him to the team that he wanted to be on, his hometown team, essentially. We wanted to send him there while he still had good years left. I didn't want it to be a situation where he was 35 years old, couldn't throw the ball like he used to. I wanted Texas to get the player that Noah is, or that he can be. And so they got 90 overall, A potential, 30-year-old Noah Syndergaard. He's going to be their ace, and that's a fantastic pickup for their team, because they obviously need help in the starting rotation. So I'm happy to announce that we've traded him there. We are losing out on a great player. But in my opinion, it's not going to hurt us tremendously, because we have so many other great players that can fill in for him, and inevitably it's going to allow us to bring up Quinn Priester and other guys that are going to potentially have good playing time. Now, we did bring in various prospects for these guys, and I'm not ready to unveil all of the prospects yet, because there's a lot of position switching that I need to do. I've had like 30 outfielders for way too long. As you guys can see, I have so many guys at outfield. I need to move guys around and make things work before I can, really say where everybody's going to play. But what I will say is that we got a decent return back for him. We didn't take anything away from their team. We're hoping that Texas can be a competitive team with that trade. So as it stands, Mitch Keller, Tyon, McKay, Ashcraft, and Priester are going to be our starting pitchers, which is a really good pitching rotation for us. Now, in terms of the bullpen, Keone Keller stayed around. We considered moving him, but I decided in the end, what we needed to do was we needed to send away one of our setup men. It was kind of a mistake to bring in both Edwin Diaz and Archie Bradley. Yes, it's great to have two great setup men like that, but they just don't get utilized. They just don't get the playing time. And so Edwin Diaz is actually really happy with his role with the team. If we look at his morale, he's ecstatic. He expects a bullpen role. He is a bullpen role, and he's filling out that role really nicely. So I figured we'd stick with him as the setup man. And then what I actually needed to do was find a place for Archie Bradley, because Archie Bradley is actually not too ecstatic with where he's at. So Archie Bradley is going to be the closing pitcher for the Rockies, because that is around the area that he grew up. I wasn't able to find online exactly who he's a fan of, but I know that he's from Oklahoma, and people in Oklahoma root for a couple different teams. They root for Texas, they root for the Rockies, some of them root for the Cardinals, some of them root for the Royals. So I chose between those teams a team that would work in order for him to be the closing pitcher on that team. And so that's what you guys will see here, is that Archie Bradley will be the closer for them, and then Mark Inoue is going to be their top relief pitcher, probably a setup man. So that's a good move for both sides as well, because he wasn't super happy with the role that he was in. His morale was negative because he was in the bullpen role, and so he should slot in as the closer for them, and that should increase his morale. And we couldn't play him enough for him to be effective for us. He was good, but not worth what we were paying him, because we couldn't play two setups. So our bullpen ends up being now Edwin Diaz as the setup man. Scott Foster is leading the way as our top reliever, and then we have Brendan Malone, who's playing fantastic, Touki Toussaint. And then what we ended up doing was we brought up Otis Matthews. Otis Matthews was a starting pitcher, and he never figured to be in my rotation. in the long term. But I do like him quite a bit. And so we brought up Otis Matthews and we put him in the bullpen because I think that he could get a significant role. Excuse me. Nothing like having a cough in the middle of making a video. Otis Matthews is going to get a significant role in the bullpen. And then we ended up signing a guy by the name of Freddie Snavely as a depth bullpen guy, because I wasn't quite ready yet to bring up Darryl Donald or Rob Kloboff. I just think they're too fresh, and they're performing decent down here in AAA, but I don't think they're performing well enough that I was ready to call them up. So I brought in Freddie Snavely as a fill-in man. Maybe he'll do well, maybe he won't. We'll see what happens, but I'm excited to see what Otis Matthews can do here in the bullpen, kind of filling in for some of that role, and then you'll see a more pronounced role out of guys like Brennan Malone, who is doing absolutely fantastic for us this season. Other than that, the team stays mostly the same. We have Murphy and Varsho, and I believe all of the position players pretty much stay the same. We switched Cozens over to shortstop, and that's just purely because he's more of an infield platoon type of player, a utility type of player. It made more sense for him to be listed as a shortstop than it did for him to be listed as a first baseman, so we moved him over to shortstop, and then the outfield stacks up pretty much the same. So those are the big moves. To recap, those are the really important things. On top of that, I've mentioned some other guys that we might consider moving on from in the future. We'll see how things play out this season. Let's take a look at how everybody's actually performing. So Mitch Keller is 10-0 on the season. He's a 99 overall. What can you do at this point? He's not going to lose games, and he's really not going to give up runs. So he only has a 1.19 ERA, and he's 10-0. Jameson Taillon is 5-0, so he's had quite a few no decisions, but he's a 2.34 ERA. Brendan McKay has a 4.87 ERA, so if anybody, he is the weak link, if you can even call it that, with a 4-2 record, followed up by Braxton Ashcraft, who is just absolutely on the rise this season, up to an 82 overall, only a 1.56 ERA and a 7-2 record. And then Quinn Priester in his first start went 5 innings and gave up 2 runs. It was like 5 1/3 inning or something like that, so he has a 3.38 ERA. So a respectable outing for a rookie pitcher for his first time out, and we're going to look to improve upon that. Touki Toussaint, as the long reliever, has been doing well. He's given up a few runs, but he's doing what I want him to do. Scott Foster's been pretty good for me so far. Brennan Malone has been lights out. Possibly one of my best relievers, maybe my best. It's hard to compete with a guy like Keone Kela. Otis Matthews has only pitched 2 innings, so not a lot of work, but he has yet to let up a run. Freddie Snavely has yet to pitch, and actually I have to put him in here. And then Edwin Diaz is struggling a little bit, and the reason that it's you can see that his stats aren't so great is because he was splitting time with Archie Bradley, and he was actually sitting behind Archie Bradley, so he would come in weird situations when I would simulate, and it didn't make a lot of sense, and so that was kind of why I decided to not have 2 setup men, because it just wasn't working out the way that it should have. And then Keone Kela has yet to give up a run this year, and he is playing lights out. In terms of the lineup, it is worth noting Cole Tucker is sliding a little bit as of late, but he's playing decently well. But Brandon Marsh batting 303, Reynolds 340, Josh Bell 293 with 17 home runs. So I think he's leading the home run race. O'Neal Cruz batting 338. JJ Bleday leads the league in batting average with 11 home runs as well. So JJ Bleday might finally be having that breakout season. I don't want to speak too soon. Travis Swaggerty batting 277, Ke'Bryan Hayes 243, and Sean Murphy is not doing so great with the bat, batting 193. Off the bench, Dylan Cozens is doing respectable, but hasn't had a lot of volume because he only got called up recently due to... what injury was it? Jason Martin being injured. Joe Rizzo doing pretty well for what he is given. For what his stats are, he doesn't have the best contact or power in the world, but he's still batting 276. Andrew McCutchen is contributing very well with 108 at-bats, and Dalton Varsho with a 273 average, and Liover Peguero with a 314 average in 35 at-bats. So I'm excited at what I'm seeing out of Liover Peguero. So that is the update with the team. That's what I wanted to give you guys today. What I will say is that we will be updating you guys soon because the draft is going to happen sometime sometime around here-ish. I'm not sure exactly what the date is. So we'll update you guys after the end of May and a week or two into June. I mean, maybe we'll just do the end of June depending on how things play out. What I do want to say is I want to kind of recap how I'm scouting. Because of the fact that I have so many prospects at other positions, I mean, I just have, so many guys, and I'm starting to move up pitchers. Like I brought Quinn Priester up, I brought up Otis Matthews. I'm going to need to backfill at the pitching position. As you guys can see, we're starting to kind of weaken out in terms of our low-end prospects at the pitching positions. So what I'm going to do, and what I've been doing, is I've been scouting pitchers heavily. So you guys will see at the top here, I have a ton of 80 potential pitchers, high-end potential pitchers that we're going to be looking to draft. We have a couple of other good prospects on the radar, but for the most part, we're going to be looking to draft pitchers in this draft class, and hopefully some left-handed pitchers, because we don't have many of those in the organization. So that's the plan moving forward. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this update. I know that it's a little bit different than usual, and I'm kind of trying to make up for the videos that I missed on Thursday and Friday, but hopefully you enjoyed. And if you did, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and comment down below with what you guys would like to see next. If there's something that you guys would like to see out of this franchise, let me know. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.